the great God that created the heavens and the earth, He created you as His image. And Moses writes to the next generation, know that you were as God's image. And God created this idyllic temple where humanity can meet God. But here's the thing. Adam is to be God's reflection into the world. He's got to be that image. You are not allowed to replace which God said should be a living idol into the world, a living image bearer of my communication with you, my purposes I've given you. That is what Adam and Eve should have been, is reflecting God's purposes into the world and reflecting the worship of God back to God. But John writes, and he says, you know that greater prophet? We saw him. That is Jesus. And remember the one thing. Moses only saw the afterglow of God's glory. We fully saw it. Jesus is not just as the image of God. Jesus is the image of God. He is the very being of God. He is God. And we experienced Him. We saw Him with our own eyes. We touched Him. As He takes up His quill like Moses did, for a generation He wants to tell. He says, that word that Moses wrote about, that in the beginning God said, let there be light, that word was Jesus. He is not just as the image of God, He is the very image of God. He sees the Father face to face, but He came down and we could experience Him face to face. We could experience the fullness of what God did. We experienced this. The only disciple that did not desert Jesus, standing there at the cross, must have wondered as a young man, what happens to my life now? Mary Magdalene came in and she said, I saw Jesus. He rose from the dead. That death and sin was defeated. Because you see what happened in the Garden of Eden. That sin came and destroyed our ability to reflect that glory. And Jesus defeated sin. We now, not like Moses, cover our faces, but we behold Jesus. And as we behold Jesus, we become more and more like Him. That image of God that was destroyed by sin is now being recovered, that we reflect God's image into the world. He also said, you are not now part of Adam. What Moses wrote about, that Adam fell, that Adam didn't want to. You are now part of Christ. You can now be an image bearer. And how do we do that? He writes to Ephesus, put on the new self. Put on this that God has made you. Become Christ-like. Put it on. The Holy Spirit is given so that we can have the fruit of the Spirit, that we reflect God's nature. The Holy Spirit is given so that we are empowered for service, that we can mightily work in the power of God. God has made it so that we can be His image bearers in the world. As we become born again, we are renewed so that we reflect Jesus to the world. Each and every one of you has been predestined by God to be transformed into His image so that you can be an image bearer to the world. There is nothing more mundane than wandering the desert for 40 years and just surviving. That was what they were reduced to. But God had a purpose for them. God had a fullness that among the nations, they were to reflect God's presence and image among the nations. And when we sometimes pray, God change the circumstances, God says, no, you are my reflector in those circumstances. You walk in there because you got relationship with me. You walk in there because you carry my DNA, my character. Reflect that into those circumstances.
Good day, family. We're thrilled to have shared this time of fellowship with you today and trusting that you've been truly blessed. Want to stay in the loop? Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Springs of Mercy Church. Subscribe, like, and share our Wednesday and Sunday services live on YouTube. Join our WhatsApp group for timely events update. May God's blessings abundantly shower upon you.